From Tacoma, Washington, this is the Off the Back Podcast. Hello and welcome to Off the Back Podcast. I'm Matt Bonjour.
And I'm Danny Clark.
And we're here to talk about Lars van der Haar.
But first...
Lars van der Haar. We watched some amazing races.
We did, yep.
And we've been kind of poo-pooing men's cyclocross this season.
No,
you've been doing it too.
You've been doing it.
And so, you know, I think both of us were, I think we probably watched the beginning, like I watched the beginning of the Euro Championships and was like, oh no, it looks like it's going to be the same old. And then I saw the result that Lars had won.
Oh, so you're going to announce that.
Well, doesn't matter. Old Dutchie.
I'm just kidding. We're like weeks past it already.
Old Dutchie Lars van der Haar had won it. And it was like, well, I think I've got to watch this.
Yeah.
Because Lars was just one of those riders that was a firm fixture in the Svenna series that was by Crosshairs. And... you know, he just was always a rider
also coached by his Venice.
Also part of the Baloise Lions team. And, you know, just one of those riders that I think, I know for me, and I feel like probably for both of us, just sort of captured our, interest. Caught our interest. He has a very, just kind of has a very aggressive style on the bike.
Yeah.
He just really works that bike. He's got a super high cadence. He's a really small dude, and ironically enough, he also makes Isabit look small, which I think is a feat of its own.
Yeah.
But that was probably the best men's race I have seen that didn't have, you know, the big three
right
in a long time.
Pretty good,
wouldn't you say?
I say. I'm saving all my commentary for the Lars van der Haar segment.
Oh, we're not going to jump into it. Did we want to do a how was your week first?
Well, I figure we have to.
Just the old tradish.
Well, and plus I was going to rant.
Oh, you have a rant?
Yeah, you remember the incident?
Oh, yeah.
I realized I hadn't shared that.
No, we should. Do we want to do that first, or do we want to talk about racing cross first?
Let's stick with the how's your week. This is completely unscripted. Not like we ever have a script for any of our podcasts.
Well, how was your week, Danny? Go into your rant.
Well, I want to get into the flow of it. Okay, I'm feeling the flow.
Is that now?
Yeah. No,
when does the flow hit you?
Well, you know, we after like a couple glasses of water. Anyway, we had a few weeks off. We kind of have been trying to podcast more regularly, but did have a couple weeks off. And you know, I've been doing a few rides. We'll talk a little bit about like Matt did a cyclocross race and some stuff. I went to a cyclocross race and was really cold and wet most of it, even though I didn't ride. But anyway, no, I had gotten out on the road and you know, I mean, I ride my bike quite a bit and am usually on the road, and I try to pick routes that are, you know, not high traffic or, you know, a spot where I may cause an inconvenience. Like there's very few routes that I'll ride around Tacoma. And same when I lived in Texas, where there's like no shoulder and like a 2-lane road. Like there was like one that comes to mind is there's a small section of like Stellacum down here, right along the water where it's like no shoulder and 2 lanes, but it's like what, maybe 2 miles, a mile and a half,
if less than that, I think. Yeah.
So it's, you know, it's just a small segment. And same when I lived in Texas, there's like a little stretch of road that I would take to get out into like the country roads, and it was the same thing. So, you know, again, like I try to be mindful and try to be cognizant of traffic and all that stuff in general. And for the most part, like have had pretty good riding experiences is a general thing in my life. You know, there's the occasional, like, I don't know, just idiot that's like says something stupid or just like yells. And most of the time it's just so like passerby thing that you don't worry about it. But I think we've all sadly been the victim of some, I shouldn't say victim. No, I should say whatever.
You can say victim. It feels like we're being victimized.
Yeah. So the short of it is, I'm sure we've all had like commentary or bad drivers, or like I hope you haven't, but I sadly think most of us have. And honestly, I've been without. I'd say generally like have had pretty good experiences on the road, and you know, if I hold up traffic, I'll like wave, you know, when they come by. Like I really try to ride like mindfully of being on the road, both for my safety and the drivers, because yes, I have a right to be there, but I want to go home to my family at the end of the day. So like, I'm not going to act in a way that's only going to antagonize the assholes out there, because like the sad part of life is that they're out there, right? Like I can't control the people behind the wheel, but can do everything I can to be safe. So anyway, I was riding through this section of town, 30 mile an hour, like not residential, but like a arterial through a neighborhood, like houses, bike lane and a shoulder. And I was riding, and someone yelled that I looked like an F, like the F word, like I just don't feel like I need to air it out, but just made sure to let me know they didn't think I looked non-appropriate. And so anyway, they were going in the other direction, and I'm like, I'll be honest, like I was like, screw you, man. And they probably
the other F word,
I used
right?
the other F word. They probably didn't hear me, but yeah, it was a knee-jerk reaction.
And I think an appropriate one.
Yeah, I mean, whatever. I mean, they were going the other way, and so
out of order.
So then, like, not more than a minute later, there's some like really older fella in a like a sedan that honks at me and gives me the finger as he goes by, and I'm just like, what? I'm like, what is happening? I'm like, I'm in a shoulder on a 30 mile an hour street, like I haven't impeded traffic. That was the first thing going through my head, is like, did I not yield? Did I like miss a stop sign, like, did I do anything? I'm like, no, I played it back in my head. I'm like, I'm good. And at this point I'm just like, you know what? Like, no, I'm going to find out why this guy is so mad at me. And so just so happens we get to a stoplight, and normally I would just ignore these people, but I'm like, I need to understand. And so I roll up next to the dude, and he's like this gray-haired, like probably 60-year-old dude, like jamming some like pop music. And I'm like, all right, cool, bro. And I like motion at his window, like the what, like the little emoji arms up thing. And he just gives me like the little go on, like just go. And I was like, no, seriously, dude, what? Like, I don't understand. And he like reaches in his jacket and gives me like a finger gun, and like acts like he pulls the trigger, and then gives me like a peace sign, and then drives off. And I'm like, I don't understand.
What is that about, dude?
And so anyway, the only thing I could put together is maybe that he saw me reacting to the opposite truck and thought I was like yelling at him because he was in the line of cars like that I was traveling with. So then I'm like, okay, cool. Maybe he thought I was like yelling at him for no reason, which if that's the case, like, okay, poop on me. But regardless, I think what my takeaway is obviously like that sucks, and I was pissed, and I went home and was like, you know what, I just got to let this go. Like, I can't understand. I'm never gonna understand why these guys are angry. They are angry. They like this, you know, one dude felt like he had to hurl insults at me, like probably with his buddies in the cab of his truck, just to like feel like a cool dude. And this other guy, from the shield of all his windows up and his music blaring, refuses to respond to me, still feels like it's okay to continue to antagonize and like finger gesture at me and stuff. And I'm like, I'm never going to know. So I'm just going to let it go. Well, the next day I woke up and I was like, man, I feel super hurt and like unsafe. And I'm like, I can't think of a time I felt this way. And of course, like, no politics. But I was just thinking to myself, like I know that there are marginalized people of all areas of life that probably feel this way on a daily,
Mm-hmm.
which sucks because I don't. And so that was like my first thought. And the second thing was just like, man, like I don't ever want to be that person who's like, like from the safety of my position, being an asshole to someone else, like just for my own ego or because of my own fear, my own insecurities, my own anger. And so anyway, it was just a moment for me. And don't get me wrong, like I was pissed, but I was like, I have to work through this emotionally and not let it get me down. And so anyway, I think in the end, it was like a healthy takeaway. And then the next time I rode my bike, to be honest, I was like a little nerve wracked, and it was like, great, like what's going to happen this time? And thankfully got out, did a ride and came home, and like, no big deal. So, here's to hopefully more riding, like without that BS, but at the same time, I don't know. I share it like one, I guess, to encourage anyone who's been like a victim of that type of behavior, regardless of whether it was on the road or anywhere else in life. And then two, just, I mean, it has taken me a lot of years to, I think, work through that emotion in that way. But, I felt good that I could take like a crappy moment and wrestle with it a little bit and like walk away and be able to let go of some of that frustration towards those people and hopefully like teach myself a life lesson.
Yeah. Well, I remember hearing you telling me about it like the next day.
Oh yeah, I called
the following
Matt
day
immediately because I was like, dude, I'm so pissed right now.
Do you want to ride?
Oh man.
Dude, I've had those moments myself. I mean, I haven't been that directly kind of insulted, but I've definitely had those moments where somebody just randomly gave me the finger just for like existing on the road. And I don't know, it just feels awful. It feels like, why don't you think that I have a place here?
Right.
Like all I'm doing is literally like doing my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah.
And you're like, and you are trying to make sure that I walk away from this time feeling like I don't belong in this space, and that's just bullshit.
It is, man. And don't get me wrong, like maybe I should just stop, but like there are cyclists that I've ridden with, there are groups I've seen on the road, there's videos on YouTube. Someone posted one like 2 or 3 days later of like a group ride where they were like 3 or 4 abreast on a 2-lane road going like 20 miles an hour and holding up traffic, and like that's not super cool either. Like if you're going to be on the road, I think it's important to be aware of other road users. But at the same time, like I get it. Like as a group of cyclists, it's hard to ride like in a group, but like we do point defiance, right? Like we get a group of guys and go, and even that's not been like, there's been some riffraff there from other users and stuff too. But like, anyway, so I don't want to excuse every road cyclist to say like, oh, they're all like beaming like rays of great road use agents. I don't know what the words are.
Well, but
but anyway,
people do these things, and then they excuse their behavior by saying, well, cyclists are the worst. Cyclists run through reds. Cyclists have no respect. Cyclists cut you up and all that kind of stuff. But I hate that sort of generalization, because nobody says, oh, well, drivers do this, drivers do that. And it's like, as a cyclist, we're just kind of generalized, and then they use that generalization to excuse poor behavior, and that there's just no excuse for that. Well, like at the end of the day, they're still in a metal box, and I'm still just in stretchy fabric with a great butt that they're jealous of. And you had mentioned something that I think was probably true, is that guy probably saw you and thought, that's a nice butt. and then actually saw that you were a dude, and then felt all like, oh my god, now my masculinity is challenged because I thought a dude's ass was cute.
Yeah,
and so now I have to call him
a lot of pink.
Now I have to call him the like F word because that's what I feel like.
Right. Well, and that's where, at the end of the day, I think the person leveraging the anger and the hate is responsible regardless. Like, are all road cyclists, like, again, perfect, like,
examples?
No, they're not. But for you to, just like you said, take this group, which is exactly, I think, what came to mind, is like, take this group, lump them all together, forget any other like perspective or anything, and just like, I'm gonna hate this person because they are this thing.
Mm-hmm. Whatever
it is, whether it's I'm not gonna talk anything else besides that, but anyway, it's just one of those things where, it was a pretty shitty situation. But at the end of the day, I think that's what I realize is, like, to your point, Matt, like, they don't talk about shitty drivers because at that moment they just want to like be angry at the cyclist, but like they're probably pissed off at some shitty driver 10 minutes later, you know, but whoever's in their crosshairs is going to be lumped into this person who's hindering me from doing whatever my ego wants. And so I'm going to be pissed about it.
Dude, totally.
And so anyway, all that being said,
I'm with you.
It was a crappy situation, but again, I wanted to share that story for a couple of reasons I mentioned, but at the end of the day, like, that was my week, and honestly, it took a couple days to kind of tussle with.
Well, and we're still talking about it. So
I'm gonna put it to bed now. It's done. I don't want to ever talking about it again. I'm just gonna bury it all deep down inside. No, but no, that was it. And I guess just to wrap up my lengthy segment about my week, I got a couple other road rides in. Was fun. Been kind of nursing like some back stuff over the last few weeks, so just got back into some core exercises and taking it easy. Took a couple weeks off cross racing for that reason, just to kind of recoup. And then plus the weather here, if you've seen anything on the news, not that we make it, but if you're localized at all, you've seen that we've had like horrific rain.
It's been,
what do they call it? Atmospheric rivers, which is like the worst possible thing you could imagine, where it's like literally just the sky dumping.
It's been awful. It has, like, every single day. It just has been rain
for like 2 weeks, basically.
It's been getting me down.
Yeah. Well, today was not raining, so it was
today was amazing.
It was like the first break,
which is why I spent like zero time outside.
Yeah, right. You just look out the window and you're like, oh, good.
I just ran. Well, I helped my son pass his driver's test today,
nice.
So that was good.
Nice.
So no rain hazards to navigate.
Very good.
And we were able to get his license same day as well. So.
Excellent. Amazing. I do appreciate the Washington Department of Motor Vehicles.
Yeah, like they had an appointment available. We went in. They're like, oh, the instructors haven't uploaded the test results yet. And I'm like, hey, could you do that? I'm like, I'm doing it right now.
Nice.
And then we walked out of there.
Nice.
With, $100 later, and he's ready to crash my car at any time.
Okay. Well, great. Well, anyway, I think that was all I had to say. Trying to run through my list of things that I didn't write down, but I think that's it. I may interject. But anyways, how was your week?
Well, I got to race again, not this past weekend, because although I kind of regret not racing this weekend, it was kind of cold and wet, and I woke up.
More than cold and wet.
I was like all ready to go, and I woke up and I was like, I don't want to go and do this today. And so one of the things, as you know, we've talked a little bit about mental health, and as you might know, I'm on a little bit of a leave just to kind of work on mental health stuff. I just gave myself permission to not like make myself do something that
to not shit all over yourself.
And then I heard that it was a mud fest, and I was like, oh man, I think I actually could have raced pretty well, because like I just like turning the pedals slowly over extended periods of time. And I think it could have been fun, but next time. But no, I got to race the Frontier Park. Yeah, Frontier Park in Spanaway, basically about half an hour south of Tacoma.
Yeah.
And it's a race that I've done before, and it was weird because my sort of instinct was kicking in based on this sort of, like 2-year-old memory, except that every time my instinct would take me left, the course would go right.
Classic.
And it was such a weird sensation. Like, it felt like the course was going the wrong way. And again, it was such a technical course, but I had a really good start, which I think I'm realizing that, like, within Cat 4s, I mean, the starts aren't super... They're not super, like, hard acceleration. It's not like the pros where you're literally, like, accelerating, sprinting until the first corner. And I'm finding it very easy to make it into the, sort of front of the race,
right,
even if I'm on the second or third row. Excuse me.
Excuse you.
But because it was so technical and there was all these, like, wood sections, it was really hard to pass. And so I just focused on staying on the wheel in front of me and just waiting until I was starting to see people drop off. And I ended up in 4th place, which...
Nice.
I was really happy with for my second race in 2 years, and just felt really good. And again, like, sprinted for the finish line, and I'm just like, what? How am I sprinting right now? I should be completely gassed, but apparently I wasn't, because I still had a sprint left in me. So I got to figure out what's going on with that and why I'm not more. Is there a limit that I can ride harder at so that I'm genuinely, like, completely spent at the end of the race? I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing.
I have a hard time with cross in that regard. So I did since I started racing, I honestly haven't done more than, like, an hour ride. And I went out the other day, same thing. I finished one of the races and, like, had all this energy left. And I was like, man, I should go race another race. I feel so, like, I feel so good. And so then I went out and did this road ride, which, again, it's been a few weeks. And when I did, I was like, the whole time I was like, everything hurts. I'm like, going up hills hurts, holding 200 watts hurts. Like, nothing feels good. And then on the way home, I just, like, I drilled it for like 20 minutes and felt amazing. And I'm like, it takes me about 45 minutes to warm up.
Wow.
Which, I don't know. It just, there's
it's just like a long time.
Well,
though.
And there's some people at these cross races that sit on trainers for like an hour.
Yeah.
That are racing later in the day.
Well, now you know why, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I feel similar, of just, I think that what I did want to say, though, is the hard thing for me with cross is, like, I'll have energy for a big effort at the finish. If I do a big effort during the race, I literally get to the point where I have to, like, stop pedaling for about 10 seconds and just, like, it, like, really, like, get the air going back in my system, and then I can, like, get back on the pedals. So I can do that at a finish because I don't have to, like, get back on the power. I just can't do that, like, up, down, up, down, up, down. So that's for me where it's hard to, like, I'm better with having some bursts of energy where I have enough time to recover, but cross doesn't really give me time to recover.
No, it definitely does not.
So that's the problem.
One of the things that was interesting as well is that it had these wood sections, and the first time I did it, I was on, I think, third wheel, and dude, the flow was there, and I remember even calling out because there's like a 14-year-old in front of me, and then probably somebody in their 20s, and I'm like, this is a flow state. Get in the flow state. And I was just, like, flowing. And then I realized that as I was getting sort of like more ragged in terms of my fitness and energy, and that's when the flow state started to deteriorate. And I was no longer, like, taking optimal corners. I was kind of all over the place. I was taking corners too wide. I was cutting too short. And I just think how do you find that balance between, pushing yourself and then also maintaining control? Because I'm sure if I had dialed it back a tiny bit, I might have actually been a little bit faster, but I was on the, like, ragged edge.
Yeah.
Because I definitely did not want anybody to catch up with me.
Right.
But it was fun, dude. And I didn't fall over. I had a couple of moments where, like, my back slid out and I kind of caught it. But dude, the Cross Revolution, thank you so much for putting on these races, but like, can we just get some less technical courses?
Yeah.
Like, I want some more like Euro style where it's just some longer straights. I don't know. And maybe I would be at a disadvantage on a course like that because it is purely down to fitness at that point.
Yeah.
But it just would be a more fun race. I think it would be like people would stay closer together and.
Well, and speaking of which, we saw that in some of the pro races this last week where it was. We'll talk about that, but where they can actually kind of like stay together.
Yeah.
You know, and it really does become a race of like some tactical and some fitness versus just like, if, you know, are you anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, we can talk about that.
Unpack that a bit.
Little, yeah, in the Tabor specifically. Puck, remember Puck? I
did have one last thing to mention about my week, and then we can move into some of the pro racing.
Oh yeah.
So I'm gonna speak lightly about this one as well.
I'm just gonna go take a break.
Okay. But I did get COVID vaccine booster shot, and
oh, that's what you were gonna talk about?
Oh, what was I?
I thought you were talking about the you're not ready to talk about that?
I don't know. Well, you can message me. I don't know. Now I'm nervous.
The Lolnago.
Oh, no, I'll talk about that. Yeah, okay. No, okay, quickly. But no, I did also get the vaccine booster. I like hesitate to use that word publicly anymore just because it seems like it's got so much attached to it. But, you know, I was hesitant. I was a little nervous. I was very exhausted and very mentally foggy afterwards. It wore me out. So anyway, I think I'm on the tail end of that. Thankfully it was maybe just over 24 hours, but wore me out. And the funny thing is I've talked to some people who like got the flu vaccine and the COVID vaccine, and they're just like, yeah, I was fine. And I'm like, you were fine? It was like I literally went home and took like a 4-hour nap as soon as I got home.
What? Yeah, I had the flu vaccine on the same day that I was starting some new meds.
Oh yeah.
And so that was an interesting experience.
Ooh,
I just kind of stayed in bed.
Yeah.
I'm not getting out.
Well, anyways, so that was just another moment to kind of take a break. And then the last thing, and then we'll move in. This has been a long lead in, but lots that's happened is I just needed a little push. So there's these there's these open mold. So there's open mold carbon bikes out there that are tried and true. They were properly engineered. They've been manufactured aplenty, and you can order them directly from China from the manufacturers for like $300 or $400 or $500. And you've seen all the horror stories, or maybe have heard the horror stories, or just have some hesitancy. But like at the end of the day, these same manufacturers are making parts for like Specialized and FSA and all these other brands. I mean, like Giant makes like 50 or 60% of the bikes out there, just, you know, in their own manufacturing, just under different brands, like contractual stuff. So, you know, there is a legitimacy to this, to these factories making carbon parts, but there are also sketch ones out there. So anyway, I just had someone here in the area who had built up one of those, Patrick McCabe, rider here in Grit City Health.
Shout out.
Who had built out one of these bikes, and he's a trustworthy guy, and he just gave me the little bit of like, yeah, it's great that I needed to believe that it was. And so I ordered one of these cyclocross frames, and it should be here hopefully in the next few weeks, and I'm going to build it up. And I've been researching how to paint carbon frames because I do want to do at least like a little color to it. And then been kind of slowly but surely trying to cobble together components. My goal is to build it like as close to a pro spec I think I'm going to do a double in the front. I'm a Shimano fan. I've just always liked Shimano over SRAM. And so anyway, yeah, so I'm going to build up a
dedicated racing bike for our own Danny Clark.
So we'll see. It's all because that bottom bracket drop. I just need a little bit
So
higher.
we were talking about fun comedy names.
Oh yeah.
So you came up with Carbondale, which I like.
Well, I was gonna do S words.
S words. That's a good one. I thought Lolnago would be a good one.
Yeah, that's a pretty good one.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I was actually thinking of just putting Cascadia on it.
Oh yeah.
Because all hail Cascadia. I mean, why not? Why not give a little homage to the region?
Danny. You could just be Danny.
Well, I do potentially may need to resell it at some point. So
you don't want to sell a bike called Danny.
No, I mean, my hope is that this isn't a complete throwaway of like $500 for the frame. That hopefully, like, worst comes to worst, I could still get a couple $100 for it down the road. But
dude, I think if it's built up.
Yeah.
Well, but then
Well, anyway,
fingers crossed.
This is a trial and error. I'll let you know how it goes. But this is a Chinese direct factory open mold cyclocross frame 101 here, and we'll see how this turns out. But Patrick, if you tune in, you can shoot me some tips how you built yours up. But we'll see. So anyway, all that being said, thank you for bearing with our weekly recap. It's kind of, I guess, more eventful than I thought.
Yeah, I love it how our week recap ends up being sometimes half the podcast.
We're like, are we even going to talk about it?
But it's fun. It's fun. I like talking about it. That's what we're here to do, right?
Well, and last but least is I spent, here's the segue. I spent the last few weeks watching some great cyclocross racing.
Oh, nice.
So why don't we talk about that?
Dude, so the Euro Championships took place not this past weekend, but the weekend before in the Netherlands. And it was on a specially designed cycling venue that was built on top of an old trash heap. And it's got this whole climb, and
like methane gas releasing, and like toxic sludge running through the course that you had to jump over.
Yeah, you just think the rider in front of you is farting, but it's really just the methane coming up. Methane, not methane. I don't know what methane is. But it was a super
probably
hilly
all the
course.
Aluminium,
Dude, it was really challenging course because the descents, like a lot of people said it was kind of like a Swiss style course, and apparently the Swiss, you know, given that they're in the mountains, have these very sort of hilly courses with these intense descents. But it had a lot of off-camber turns, and it kind of looked super intense. And in the men's race, we saw Lars van der Haar kind of start off poor. I think he started off well and then dropped back again, and then just kind of like slowly picked off rider after rider and just rode a technically perfect race.
Yeah, it was a fun course because it kind of had a mix of like the like grassy sections, muddy sections, and if I'm remembering right, gosh, like I said, have watched so many races. It was really like one of his early bike changes where he pitted, and it set him back quite a bit compared to the rest of the field. Because at one point it was like 6 Belgian riders and then Lars van der Haar.
Yeah.
And I think there was a crash that held up a couple of the other Netherlands riders right at the beginning. So it was like, it was really, I mean, it was seriously just like the sea of blue with the Belgian stripes and Lars, like, and he was in that front field, but then, you know, kind of fumbled back a little bit. It had the bad bike change, and then little by little there was these. I think what really made the course was these climbing sections.
Yeah,
like pure power, and like we saw Toon Aerts attack a couple times. We saw like Ali Iserbit kind of go up to the front, and it was just like this.
Well, and then Herman's had like Herman's was ahead with like a 10-15 second gap and put this amazing attack up the I don't remember what it's like this sort of Vam Mur de Vam, I think.
Mur de trash heap.
And dude, I was just like, okay, Quentin is going to get this. Like, this is his to win. And even though I was super jazzed that Lars caught up with him, I felt a little bit bad because like Quentin was the second best.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, he I don't know. Well,
Well,
I felt that like he kind of deserved.
Yeah.
He didn't deserve to win because he wasn't the best. Lars was the best, but it just was a tour de force by Lars. Just absolutely amazing racing.
Yeah.
Like it was one of those races where you just like it was a better race knowing what the result was going to be because you watched it differently. And it goes back to what we talked about last week, where just kind of knowing the result sometimes gives you a different perspective on the race.
Right.
Um,
Well, and the thing was with Hermans is that he did, like, by I think second or third lap really own, like he really put the power down, and he did have some pro road racing this year too, which I think added to his fitness, and it definitely looked like his race to lose. And slowly Ellie Iserbit like dropped back, which I think he was the favorite. Maybe the course wasn't suitable to him, but he certainly went in as a favorite racer, just having such a great season so far. But he just couldn't keep up, and Lars van der Haar, again, just all those power sections just had it,
dude.
And it was so cool to watch. And like you said, at one point, I think maybe 2 laps to go, I think he was 14 seconds down, if I remember right, and he basically, I mean, he was right. He was basically just riding every lap like 6 to 7 seconds faster than anybody else through the whole race.
So cool.
And just took second after second after second, and ended up with Hermans at like the lap and a half to go, and then put in that last attack and just pulled away. And yeah, it was super cool to see him win. So to the top of our segment, I think Lars van der Haar last week at European Champions just really like got men's racing exciting again.
Yeah, absolutely. We've both been really skeptical about it, and watching it, I was just thoroughly engaged.
Yeah.
Like thoroughly, just like I was in deep smit.
Yeah.
I was smitten by the race.
Well, and Lars van der Haar is not like, he's not a rider to underestimate. I mean, I think he's been lacking on a lot of podium finishes, but he's easily top 5, top 10 in almost every race.
Yeah.
And I even think back to Matthew van der Poel winning Worlds a few years ago, where if it wasn't for kind of the teamwork of Lars van der Haar, I don't think Matthew would have won that race. It was I can't remember exactly what year, but I can see it in my mind.
It was the Denmark.
Yeah, maybe where there was like a concrete, like a small strip of like a hard surface going up a off camber grade.
Yep.
And basically Lars van der Haar kind of like
pseudo
fumbled a little bit and like blocked everybody else, and Matthew attacked.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, was it Velo News or Cycling Tips had a power number?
Danny's getting discouraged.
Where Van der Poel in the Tour de France on the stage he won, had 2 back-to-back 600-watt for 4-minute attacks to win the stage.
Dude, I can do that in my sleep. No biggie. Dude,
I can do 600 watts for like maybe 30 seconds. And if you talk to, it makes me want to quit.
It hurts.
It hurts. I couldn't even do that on my best day of my life. I'm so pathetic.
Yeah. Well,
anyways.
A, you're not a pro, and B, you don't get paid to ride your bike.
I know, but that's in the middle of a grand tour. Like on one stage.
You mean in the middle of like riding 2,000
like in the middle of a
plus
season.
kilometers? Yeah, no, I get it.
Like it's
I get
just
it.
insane. I mean, if like he was on a road ride and I was like, "Hey man, you want to go?" and I'd like sprint. I mean, I would literally look like I was standing still.
Well, you'd look like that video of with Danny Martinez and Higuita in Colombia, just dropping all of these total AMs.
Anyways,
but in the women's race, after a amazing start with a little bit of a lull over the past month, we saw Lucinda Brand dominate that race with a really strong attack. I think it was like the second or third time through the pits. She just opted not to go into the pits and then attacked and The second place was Blanca Catavas, or Vosh, I think is how you actually pronounce it, who came in 56 seconds down. So she really stamped her thingamajig on that.
Her stamp?
Her stamp. She stamped her stamp on that race. And in third place, we had Yara Castelline. And it wasn't quite as engaging of a race because it really just ended up being Vosh and Castelline kind of going back and forth, trying to catch up. But neither of them really had the measure of Lucinda Brand. And then midweek last week, we had the Leuven course, which is part of the Ethias Cross, which is a weird kind of series of races because they don't have a standings. It's just all of these individual racings,
right?
Which, I mean, wouldn't you want to have some sort of a standing, or do they maybe feel like there's too many with the World Cup and the X2O or Bad Cam series? What's that one?
It's hard to
X2O Bad Cammers Trophy, and then the just the World Cup. Maybe they just don't want to be the fourth ranked most important one. But I just feel like so many people were over in it was actually on Saturday, not midweek. So many people were over in the Czech Republic for Tabor that it was like I watched the women's race and it was like, wait, who are these people?
Right.
Like the front row, what the majority of the names were names that I hadn't recognized, or names like Maud Captains who hasn't been on the front of a race in 3 years.
Yeah.
But Anna Kay was a second race back and she ended up winning it basically from the go. Just rode a great race, perfect riding, looked really good, and took it convincingly. And it's that fun one where it has these kind of like channels that they go through, like they've ridden through it so many times that it's actually dug into the earth. And it was a traditional course as well, so it's just one of those races that you watch and immediately you recognize, and you've seen it a million times. So hey, nice work with Anna Kay on that one. And then moving over to the Czech Republic for the World Cup, Tabor, again, I think it was pretty much the same course, a really similar course to the Eurochamps course, except that there was no hill.
Yeah.
It's just all dry grass, which I think is why it favored Lars van der Haar winning again, 2 in a row.
Yeah. Yeah, and I forgot to mention, humorously, I texted Matt about the men's European Championship race.
Over and over again.
About how good it was.
Over and over again.
Oh, gosh, please watch it. But, yeah, the men's race in Tabor was very much the same. Just a really exciting men's race. I think for me, though, without shifting too much, without pulling the e-brake too hard here, the women's race at Tabor was just like so good.
Dude, can we just talk about Puck Peters?
Well, you can. I have to talk about Lucinda Brand, so you first.
Okay, so Puck was the only rider that was consistently jumping the planks.
Yeah.
Or the barriers. Sorry. Well, we say planks here, but they say barriers in Europe.
I don't know. They're actually advertising signs.
Well, they were like almost a 30 centimeters deep, almost a foot deep. Yeah. But she was the only one that was riding them, and every single time she was like just that's the sound effect for when you brop. She just was putting down some power. And she would get a gap, and then they would bring her back, and then they'd go around again, and she would get a gap.
That sound reminded me of the Nintendo Top Gun video game.
Oh yeah,
where you sit on the. Sorry. Okay. It's
if you're wearing really nice headphones, and I just blew them with my Top Gun flying and shooting sound effects, I apologize. But dude, I was so impressed with Puck Peters, but the problem that she had, or the mistake that she made, is that she was doing that on every single lap except the last lap where she let Lucinda Brand take the lead on the finish straight. And then once Lucinda Brand was on the front, she stayed on the front until the race was done. And Puck Peters, I think, came in 10 seconds down or 3 seconds down.
Yeah.
So she won the sprint. And but at that point, Lucinda Brand had made enough of a gap that she was pulling away.
Yeah.
But what Puck should have done is really taken the lead on that last straight. Or maybe she should have waited and stayed with the group, because it definitely seemed like she was trying to drop them earlier, but it wasn't working. And I wonder if she should have waited then, attacked over the finishing straight on the final lap, stayed out in front, and then just really like pushed it hard in that section.
Well,
I think she could have done something.
Interestingly, I think that's where Lucinda Brand tactically was just, oh my gosh, it was brilliant. It was so brilliant. Oh my gosh, she was perfect. I mean, she was at the back of the group for a good portion of the race. Yeah, well,
she didn't take the lead.
Well, let me harp on.
Yeah, you're talking about Brand. Sorry.
Yeah, leave me alone.
Sorry.
Well, and I did want to mention, just before I forget, Anna Marie Worst had 2 podium finishes over the last week too, which is,
she had the least worst results of her season so far.
Sure, she'd love that joke.
Dude, and then Puck hasn't come lower than 5th since Fayetteville.
Yeah, she's definitely a force to be reckoned with, and in influencing every race, which we've talked about.
Yeah, riding hard.
But at Tabor,
and she's 19.
Yeah.
Sorry, you go. I'm gonna stop talking.
Stop. So Lucinda Brand. So the top races of the weekend for me, or a couple weeks, were definitely men's elite Euro. Second would be women's at Tabor, and Lucinda Brand was brilliant. She did actually go off the front for the first few laps, and was putting pressure on the group, and was taking the faster lap times, and was putting in attacks, and was pushing the pace. She did see Puck Peters take the barriers and get out ahead after she'd come off the last barrier, because it was a bit of a grade, getting the wheels turning again, and Puck Peters had the advantage there. But Lucinda Brand was putting Betsema under pressure. At one point, like, Betsema dropped because of Brand's like power on the front. And I think it was like lap 3 or so, or 4, where Brand had gone to the front, again, put pressure, separated the whole group. And then when they got to the finishing straight, everyone kind of sat up and they would all bunch back together. And that would happen almost every lap. And Lucinda Brand literally just like sat up and went to the back of the group. And I was like, she blew it.
Yeah, I thought so too.
I was like, she's done. And then I was like, maybe 5 or 10 minutes in, I'm like, no, she's not. She's just hanging in the back of the group. And from that point on, she just literally sat on the back wheel for like 2 or 3 laps, because she was seeing how the race was playing out. And then on the last lap, that's when she knew she had the faster lap times, but she knew it was just by a margin. And so that's when she played it perfectly. And I think just like you had described, put the pressure on the group, strung everybody out, got in front of Puck Peters, knew that was the one spot she was disadvantaged, and prepped for it, and then just hammered. And by the time she got to the finish line, she was done. Like, she was gassed, but she knew she could ride better and faster, and so she just tactically, she nailed it. And I think there was an interview I saw afterwards where she just was like, yeah, I had the advantage of riding road and being a tactician, and cross like does require tactics, but like we've also talked to, like Clara Hansinger's win a few weeks ago. Yeah, there's some tactics, but it's like she just rode a race, and she happened to be the fastest lap time. Same with Lars van der Haar. He rode his race. He was just doing faster laps than everybody else. But this is where Lucinda Brand just like, oh man, she made it a tactical race, and she won because of her tactics, and it was so cool to watch. For her to just size it up that quickly in the moment and end up doing what she did. So anyway, I just really enjoyed watching
Dude,
that.
and I think another strong finish from Anne-Marie Vost, who came in third.
Who had the least worst results?
He had the least worst results.
Okay.
She actually she came into the finishing straight ahead, but Puck really wanted that second place.
Yeah.
Which I wonder, does that mean now that Puck is leading the under 23?
Maybe.
Because I think I saw that. Oh wait, what? It's not splitting it up.
Well, and I did hear
so
someone.
She is leading the under 23.
Well, and I heard someone mention too that like, and they probably said it for, obvious reasons, but like, they really wish there was a women's under 23 race because like one, it would take Puck Peters out of competition, but like two, I mean, there's some really talented young riders, you know, that are emerging on the scene, and it's been cool to watch. So anyway, just if you pick any of those two races to watch, I would say the men's Euro champs and then the women's Tabor for me. But those were just, and I've watched them so many times. They're great. And I found this cool feature on the GCN app where you can turn off announcers and just have ambient noise. And it's almost like, it's kind of a little dull because we're like programmed to have all the like, the Jeremy Powers, like pronouncing all the Belgian names really well.
Yeah, he does a good job.
Yeah, but at the same time, it felt more like, what's gonna happen? Like, I don't know. Like, how do I feel about the race? Like, what am I seeing happen and play out? And then the crowds and like the old men like spitting beer and French fry breath.
Well, and then just hearing the riders like breathing hard is so interesting. But yeah, Ant McCrossan sometimes he's like. I'm 50-50 on him. Sometimes I really enjoy his commentary. Sometimes I find him incredibly annoying.
Yeah.
And I can't quite figure him out. He's kind of like Carlton Kirby as well. Carlton Kirby is this kind of legend in the commentary community.
Yeah.
But he's kind of annoying at the same time because he kind of exaggerates a lot.
Oh, yeah.
Whereas, So
he's like, oh my gosh, he's so far off the front.
Yeah.
It's like 2 seconds.
Yeah, it's great.
Well, we did want to mention, we kind of were supposed to have saved this for last week, but we didn't. Sorry, we're just giving some hand signals to the camera here.
You can go through. My son is just trying to gain access to his bedroom.
This is our professional recording
studio and residence.
But last thing here is we did want to touch on. We were actually going to dedicate more time, and here we are again, not with it. Is Sagan's move to team the Rec ELD.
It's pretty good. I loved your phonetic spelling that you sent me earlier today.
I texted it to Matt earlier.
Well, this is really interesting. So he's moving out of the world tour.
And taking all of his friends with him.
And taking a lot of people with him, which is amazing. And including but not limited to Sagan's brother, Daniel Oss.
Jiraj.
Who?
Jiraj.
Oh, Jiraj. Sorry, I was like, who?
It's like, we're going to name Peter.
But taking his brother and Oss. And dude, like, Direct Energy have got a pretty legit, like, classics crew. I mean, they've got... My auto spelling changed Borsenhagen to Bassoonhagen.
Dude, I love autocorrect.
We got Bassoonhagen, Pierre Latour, but Latour's more of the sort of Ardennes classic GC Tour de France type character. But obviously we've got Oss and then Sagan, brother. Nicky Terpstra joined that team a few years ago and has kind of been invisible since then. Anthony Turgis had top tens both at Dwars door Vlaanderen and the Ronde van Vlaanderen, and then Bonifacio. So they've got a pretty good team.
Yeah, well, and I mean, this seems like a pretty big go for
not
some
to mention
of the
Bodnar.
classics. Yeah.
Oh yeah, so Bodnar's going over from Bora as well. So that's interesting.
So pretty interesting change up here. Peter had said, I read an interview with him where he basically said that Direct Energy was the only team that showed like attentive interest as far as, you know, quick callbacks and like energized responses and stuff. He's like, you know, there were other teams that would say they'd get back to me, and I never heard from them for several days. And
I can imagine it's a risk though with Sagan because like he hasn't had results for a couple of years now. Like he hasn't really been there in the sprints.
I mean, he did have a couple great stages
He won the Giro stage,
at
which
the Giro.
was amazing. But it showed that he could still do it, but then he never did after that.
Yeah.
Like, it was just that kind of one-time thing. I still watch those 3 world champions finishes probably once every few months just to remind myself of, because that dude, I can't think of a time I've been more excited than when him winning those 3. Like every single morning I mean, because we watch them in the mornings. Every single time that happened, I was super flippin' jazzed. But no, it's going to be a really interesting, and obviously because they are a French team, they're basically guaranteed an invitation to the Tour.
Right.
So he's guaranteed a trip to the Tour. But like Paris-Roubaix, and I'm pretty sure with Sags, they're like, they're going to be going to all of the big races. Milan. I mean, they pretty much get invited to Milan San Remo. I mean, all of the monuments, except for maybe Lombardia, which I don't feel like Sags is really going to be missing out a great deal.
Well, it's interesting too. I mean, one, it's going to be kind of interesting to see what happens with Bora, because their whole team just left, basically. And then 2, I mean, it's gosh, I mean, this is just going to be really interesting to see what happens, because there's been a few I like there was a couple other riders who moved to Direct Energy recently too, and I feel like they just kind of petered off.
Both Boassenhagen and
Terpstra.
Terpstra.
I said there was a P, Terpstra, but no, I mean, this could be a pretty big revitalization. I mean, we'll see. In
Soup, they're racing with Soup.
Oh,
Jeffrey Soup.
I love that guy's beard. Dude, he's such a beast. He reminds me of Bernie Eisel, who has gone on to be a DS now. I just saw.
With Bora, I thought.
Oh yeah, maybe. Anyway,
but wait. So, but I do want to. So, one other thing that's interesting as well is that Direct Energy are now going to be. They're moving away from Villiers Trestina bikes
to Specialized,
and they're now moving to Specialized because of the SAGs thing. So, I'm sure they're going to be on 100% glasses,
probably,
and Specialized bikes, which means that now there's going to be 3 teams like racing at the top. I mean, they're not a top tier team, but there's going to be because Specialized is staying with Bora, and I don't think they would ever quit. They can't quit De Koenig,
right?
And so there'll be 3 bikes there, which is interesting.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Interesting to see how this will pan out for Sags too, because to Matt's point, I mean, he hasn't really been. He's always been a favored rider, but maybe not able to deliver results, and we'll see. Maybe this is the mental, change he needs to maybe have a little more respect, maybe a little more freedom, even the ability to maybe call a few more shots too, and have more influence. So we'll see.
One thing that stood out when I read his book, Sagan,
where he's like,
he does like his own way of doing things. There was a season that he talked about, I think when he first went to Bora, or it may have even been when he first went to Tinkoff, where there was a trainer that was really trying to kind of like guide him, and he just didn't respond well to it. And then when he went back to kind of his own system, his own way, it worked better for him. And so maybe I know Bora was essentially built around him initially, and then has moved away from depending on him. I wonder if this will be another team that's built around him. I don't know.
Yeah.
It seems it's kind of a risk. But
yeah. Well, it is, and I mean, it's interesting. I'd like to believe that Peters seems like he has a good attitude, and I mean, to be honest, like there's not really much controversy or any negativity around the guy.
Not for a long time.
Well, and I mean, but nobody's like, oh, that guy's a real ass.
Yeah,
you know,
no.
like this.
He's well liked.
And I mean, you know, like some of these other writers, you know, when he negotiates his contract, he's like, I'm only coming if you take care of my buddies.
Yep.
So, you know, I don't know. Maybe this is just him, you know, perhaps there's an element of him recognizing he's kind of in the waning years, dare I say, of his career.
That doesn't feel good.
I mean, maybe not waning, but you know.
No,
I mean,
I know. I mean, he's in what, early 30s at this point.
So, you know, maybe this is some way of just him helping kind of use his brand and his name and his friends to kind of reinvigorate and have one last kind of hurrah, because he does seem to he likes to party.
I like to
Peter,
party.
he likes to party.
Why so serious?
So maybe this is just, you know, kind of another way for him to have fun and race bikes and do what he likes and bring other people along that journey with him. And maybe it isn't so much about, you know, can they suddenly become like a well-recognized team? Maybe it's just, you know, hey, like let's race bikes and have fun. And it seems like that's what he was into, because he wanted a team that was ready to call him back and like, let's do this, let's get after it.
And he's bringing Sportful with him.
Ooh, nice.
So hopefully that'll mean that kit won't look as flipping awful as it has.
It's either that or Cofidis that's like the two worst kits out there. The Direct Energy did a decent redo.
No, I think it's Wanty Group Gobert.
Oh boy,
is definitely one of the worst ones from this past season. And then the other bad one is the Bike Exchange one, and then the Team DSM ones are the ones that just make me want to like vomit my guts out. And then that that makes me think about dude, cross team kits are awful. Like all of them are terrible. The only ones that look good are the ones where it's like the national or worlds or Euro champions ones. But there isn't like a single one.
Well,
that
hold on, the
good.
Baloise Lions kit.
Even that one is not that like great. It. No, you're wrong,
dude.
You're
that
wrong.
One's good, man, dude. Anyway, I was Lars van der Haar's Euro jersey looks pretty awesome.
Yes, but even the teams like, I don't know, like Alpecin Phoenix, I think are the one that's basically the best one. But the rest of them, like even the Eco Krellin ones, the Pal Sausen Bingo ones, like they're all awful.
Dude, come on, you don't think that kit looks good?
No, it's weird looking.
I think it's pretty.
It's just
good,
the
man.
red with the blue and the black. Like, just pick. They should have had like.
Dude, this one.
I don't know.
I
think
too.
I just.
The Telenet
that
Fidea
one was
kit
pretty good. The one with the sort of yellow and green stripes on it. That one was a good kit. But the red one, I don't like. I don't
know, man. I feel like cross jerseys, like part of cross though, is like it's
terrible.
Borderline obnoxious. Like that's just part of it.
Like Italian teams.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, well, they're terrible.
Anyways,
terrible.
we should probably.
Yeah, I just needed to make sure that everyone knew that. Yeah, no, they're all terrible. They're all terrible. And some of the like smaller team ones, they're like, dude, just it's got to be simpler. It's got to be simpler. Like it's just bold colors. Like the Pal Sausen Bingo one just looks like somebody like vomited a bunch of brands onto a black jersey and then they're like, oh, that'll do. Even the Star Casino, the all red one, it's just not good.
I'm gonna go ahead.
Not good.
I'm just gonna fade this out as Matt rants about how bad all the jerseys are. But thanks for tuning in this week.
Even the Trek, actually, the Trek Factory Racing one is that is a good one. That's the only good one. And then the Trinity Racing one is good too, even though their new one is weird looking. But anywho's,
the Cannondale powered. What is it? World powered by World.
Cyclocross World. No, there's no
World
powered by. No, it's
Cannondale.
weird looking. It's like this weird gray color that they just like disappearing into.
Okay. Well,
obnoxiousness.
none of those people are going to want to sponsor our podcast after that.
And Caitlin Keogh hated it so much she decided to retire rather than wear it.
I don't think that's the reason.
Well, anyway, let's wrap it up. It's been a pleasure, folks.
Oh, you're doing the.
No, I just wanted to say
Okay,
that.
well, anyways, if you feel free to email or reach out to us with thoughts, feedback, or, whatever, offthebackpodcast@gmail.com. We appreciate everyone tuning in. We also check us out on YouTube. We finally, it's the hardest thing ever. Like, I have so much respect for YouTube content creators now, because they're way younger than I am and can learn things faster. But anyway,
video editing, like I was losing my mind last week trying to edit this video, and all
so
I wanted
funny.
was just to put like a thing on it, and just all these words. I don't know what any of them mean, and
all the tools.
it made me so.
Anyways, we did it.
so
So
angry.
we posted last week's episode. We're hoping to get this one up. So if you want to watch us in Matt's basement, you can. We have some lovely artwork here featured behind us, and gives you a chance to see our faces.
It's for sale, $500.
Help sponsor the podcast by buying Matt's family's art. I think who did that?
It was actually a work thing. A bunch of people contributed to it.
Nice.
So some of these brushstrokes are mine. I couldn't tell you which ones. The good ones.
Nice.
But
Well,
I like it.
thanks for tuning in, everybody. Ride safe out there. Hope you have some good journeys on your bike over the next few weeks, and we will we'll catch you soon. And don't forget to get ready for the Festive 500, which I'm probably not going to do again
I
this
can
year.
actually do it this year.
Ooh.
Okay.
All right.
Bye.
Cheers, everyone.